The ocean's edge. It's a place of tranquility, where the gentle rhythm of the waves laps against the shore, and the sun warms the sand. Here, families gather, children play, and for a little while, the worries of the world seem to drift away with the tide. It's a portrait of serenity, a blissful illusion of safety. But just beyond the shallows in the vast blue expanse, a different world exists. A world governed by ancient predators and unforgiving laws. Few realize that not far from our footsteps, countless lives have been quietly devoured by the ocean's silent kings. This isn't a world of malice, but one of instinct. A world where survival is the only creed. The creatures that patrol these depths have existed for hundreds of millions of years, perfectly adapted to their realm. Honestly, we are but fleeting visitors to their domain, often oblivious to the power that moves beneath the surface. The boundary between our world and theirs is a fragile one, and when it is crossed, the consequences can be both swift and devastating, leaving behind only questions and a profound sense of awe. Tonight, we'll journey into that world, not to vilify its inhabitants, but to understand the moments when our paths have tragically converged. These are stories that have been whispered in coastal towns, buried in old maritime logs, or overshadowed by larger historical events. We'll explore several little-known but well-documented shark attacks, stories that may deepen your respect and perhaps fear for the mysteries beneath the waves. The ocean holds its secrets close, but sometimes it offers a glimpse into its formidable power. The year is 1945. The Second World War is in its final, convulsive throes. The USS Indianapolis, a heavy cruiser, has just completed a top-secret mission of immense importance, delivering components for the first atomic bomb to the island of Tinian. Her duty done, she sails onward into the vast emptiness of the Philippine Sea, unescorted. The crew, nearly 1,200 strong, anticipate a swift journey to their next port of call, but the sea on this moonless night has other plans. It's a hunter's sea, and something ancient is stirring in the depths below. At 14 minutes past midnight, 2 Japanese torpedoes strike the Indianapolis with catastrophic force. The ship, once a proud symbol of naval power, is torn asunder, sinking in a mere 12 minutes. She takes 300 men with her to the ocean floor. But for the 900 who are cast into the black, oil-slicked water, the true ordeal has only just begun. They are alone, scattered across miles of open ocean, with nothing but life vests and the hope of a rescue that is not coming. No distress call was ever received. As the first dawn breaks, it illuminates a scene of utter desperation. The survivors, suffering from exposure, dehydration, and horrific injuries, cling to debris and each other, but they are not alone. Drawn by the concussive blasts of the sinking ship and the scent of blood in the water, the ocean's most efficient predators have arrived. Oceanic whitetips and perhaps tiger sharks begin to circle. At first they are cautious, bumping the living and feeding on the dead. But as the days wear on and the men grow weaker, the shark's behavior changes. The circling becomes more aggressive, more deliberate. For 4 long days and 5 terrifying nights, the men of the Indianapolis were subjected to a relentless siege. They formed groups, kicking and splashing to ward off the sharks, but it was a futile effort. One by one, men were pulled under, their screams muffled by the vastness of the Pacific. Official reports would later focus on the sinking itself, on the failures of naval intelligence. But for the 316 who were eventually rescued, the memory was not of torpedoes or of drowning, but of the silent gray shapes that had stalked them from below, a hidden chapter of horror in a war already filled with it. The summer of 1916. America was on the cusp of entering the Great War, and a heat wave of historic proportions had descended upon the East Coast. Seeking relief, city dwellers flocked to the seaside resorts of the Jersey Shore. It was a time of innocence, an era when the greatest danger in the water was thought to be a strong undertow. The very notion of a shark attacking a human in these temperate northern waters was dismissed by scientists as pure fantasy. That perception was about to be shattered with brutal finality. On the 1st of July, in the town of Beach Haven, a young man named Charles Van Sant went for an evening swim. He was attacked in shallow water, in full view of his family. Lifeguards pulled him ashore, but his injuries were too severe. He bled to death on the manager's desk of the hotel. The incident was shocking, but experts quickly assured the public it was a freak event, perhaps a sea turtle or a large mackerel. The beaches remained open. The holidaymakers lulled back into a false sense of security. The predator, however, was still there, and it was moving north. 5 days later, and 45 miles up the coast in Spring Lake, another attack occurred. Charles Bruder, a bell captain, was swimming far from shore when both his legs were bitten off. He was pulled from the water but died before he could even be brought to the beach. Panic began to ripple through the coastal communities. This was no longer a single isolated incident. Something was actively hunting in the waters of New Jersey. The fear reached a fever pitch, however, when the attacks moved inland into the brackish waters of Matawan Creek, a place no one ever imagined a shark could be. Here, in the most unlikely of settings, the shark struck twice more, killing a young boy and a man who tried to rescue him, and severely injuring another. The state descended into a collective hysteria. A shark-hunting frenzy was declared, with bounties offered for any large sharks caught. Eventually, a young great white was captured nearby with human remains in its stomach, and the attacks ceased. For decades the debate raged. Was it a single, rogue great white, or perhaps a bull shark, known to travel into fresh water? A lone, confused predator had, for 4 terrifying days, held an entire coastline in its grip. The Amazon River. It is not an ocean but a world unto itself, a freshwater sea that snakes through the heart of a continent. Its murky, sediment-rich waters conceal a menagerie of extraordinary creatures, from the gentle manatee to the piranha. But in 1983, a series of terrifying events would suggest that a far larger, more formidable predator from the saltwater realm had made this river its home. Far from the coast, in a remote village deep within the Peruvian Amazon, people began to disappear from the water's edge. The stories from the villagers were chilling and honestly pretty consistent. A powerful, unseen force would drag its victims under in a violent swirl of water, leaving behind only a spreading cloud of blood. Local legends spoke of a great river monster, but the nature of the attacks pointed to something known to science, yet utterly unexpected here: a shark. The prime suspect was the bull shark, Carcharinus lucus, a species uniquely adapted to tolerate fresh water, allowing it to venture thousands of miles upriver from the ocean. A team of biologists, intrigued and concerned by the reports, mounted an expedition into the area. They documented the villagers' accounts and searched for evidence. Their breakthrough came when they discovered what appeared to be a den, a deep scoured-out pool in the riverbed where several large bull sharks were observed resting. This was a monumental discovery, suggesting not just occasional visits, but a resident population living and breeding hundreds of miles from the sea. The team claimed to have captured extraordinary photographic evidence of this hidden colony. But here, the story takes a mysterious turn. On the journey back from the remote location, the expedition's boat reportedly capsized in a sudden storm. The team survived, but they claimed all their equipment, including the cameras and the priceless rolls of film, was lost to the river's depths. Without this proof, their incredible claims were met with skepticism from the wider scientific community. The Amazon's bull shark dens remain, to this day, a cryptozoological mystery, a story of a lost world, hidden within a lost world, its truth guarded by the river itself. Antarctica, the coldest, driest, and most remote continent on Earth. Its surrounding ocean is a frigid, alien environment where life has adapted to extremes beyond our comprehension. In these waters we expect to find seals, penguins, and whales. We do not expect to find sharks. The water is simply believed to be too cold for these largely warm-blooded predators. But in 2008, the disappearance of a researcher from a remote outpost on Franklin Island would challenge this long-held assumption and hint at a predator unknown to science. James West was a seasoned marine biologist, part of a small team studying krill populations. He was an experienced diver, meticulous and deeply respectful of the Antarctic environment. One afternoon he undertook a routine solo dive beneath the sea ice, tethered by a safety line to the surface, where his colleague monitored his progress. For 20 minutes the dive proceeded as planned, then suddenly the line went slack. His colleague, sensing trouble, began to haul him in. The line came up, but it was severed, cleanly sliced as if by a razor. James West was gone. An immediate search was launched, but the treacherous currents and shifting ice made it perilous. For 2 days they found nothing. Then, a grim discovery was made on a nearby ice floe. Portions of a wetsuit, shredded beyond recognition, were found alongside human remains. The nature of the damage was unlike anything the forensic experts had ever seen. The bite marks were not consistent with the continent's known predators, like the leopard seal or the orca. They were serrated, suggesting a large shark, but the bite radius was larger than any known species that could tolerate such cold water. The official cause of death was recorded as an accident, a diving mishap. But among the Antarctic research community, a different theory took hold. They spoke of the Phantom of Franklin Island, a hypothetical, undiscovered species of Antarctic shark, perhaps a relative of the Greenland shark, but larger and more aggressive. A creature perfectly adapted to this frozen kingdom, an apex predator whose existence we have never suspected, and whose only proof is the tragic, unsolved mystery of what happened to James West beneath the ice. The Great Barrier Reef, off the coast of Queensland, Australia. It is a world of vibrant color and breathtaking beauty, a mecca for tourists and divers who come to witness one of the planet's greatest natural wonders. But in the late summer of 2020, this paradise became a hunting ground. A sudden and alarming spike in shark attacks in the Whitsunday Islands region left authorities and scientists searching for answers, as the turquoise waters turned red with alarming frequency. The season had been unusually hot, a prolonged marine heatwave that pushed sea temperatures to record highs. This environmental stress had a profound effect on the reef's inhabitants. Coral bleaching was widespread, and the complex food web was thrown into disarray. Scientists believe this disruption may have forced large predators, particularly tiger and bull sharks, to change their feeding patterns and move into areas they typically avoided, areas popular with snorkelers and swimmers. The sharks were hungry, and they were on the move. Compounding the issue was the time of year. Late summer is the mating season for many shark species in the region. During this period, sharks, particularly males, are known to be more aggressive and less predictable. They congregate in specific areas, creating mating zones where testosterone levels are high and territorial disputes are common. It is believed that several of the popular tourist spots in the Whitsundays inadvertently overlapped with these temporary high-risk zones. The swimmers were, unknowingly, gate-crashing a very dangerous party. The series of attacks that followed were swift and devastating. A young tour guide, a vacationing father, a local fisherman, all fell victim within a matter of weeks. The incidents were not cases of mistaken identity, they were aggressive, predatory encounters. The tragedy in Queensland was a perfect storm, a fatal convergence of factors, a changing climate stressing the ecosystem, the natural aggressive cycle of shark mating, and the ever-present overlap of human recreation in a wild, untamable space. Paradise had shown its teeth. The stories we have heard tonight are more than just frightening tales from the deep. They are stark reminders of a world that operates on its own terms, indifferent to our presence. Behind the glossy brochures and tranquil beach ads lies a bloody truth no one dares to print. The ocean is not a theme park. It is the last great wilderness on our planet, a realm where ancient predators reign, and we are, at best, vulnerable guests. We enter their home every time we step off the shore. These incidents, from the war-torn Pacific to the icy waters of Antarctica, are often labeled as rare, tragic accidents, but a closer look reveals a more complex picture. Shark attacks are not rare accidents. They're deeply tied to human activity and a changing planet. Whether it's the chaos of a sinking ship, the encroachment into their freshwater nurseries, or the ecological stress caused by a warming climate, our actions have consequences that ripple through their world, often leading them directly to ours with devastating results. We must move beyond fear and sensationalism. These stories are not just cautionary tales designed to keep us out of the water. They are the sea's true voice, calling us to listen. They call for a deeper respect for these magnificent, misunderstood creatures, and a more profound understanding of the delicate balance we share with their world. For in their survival and in our wisdom to coexist lies the health of the entire ocean, and ultimately, our own. The mystery of the deep is not something to be conquered but to be understood.